Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Yan Zhang. In addition to being the CEO of Metaverse Institute, I'm also the Vice Chair for the United Nations International Telecommunication Union Working Group on Metaverse with a special focus on sustainability. So this is really a topic at my heart. I'm really delighted to be joined by such a distinguished panel of experts. And Samara, you're working for BMW, and I know you have been doing lots of interesting things like sustainability. So my first question is, what do you think is the biggest challenges we need to deal with when it comes to fighting climate change?
That's a very good question to start with. We have a lot of issues in the automotive industry that also is connected to the climate change. So we know, first of all, that the standards that we have in the automotive industry and the methodology to calculate, for example, carbon emission differs a lot. So there's no comparison with each other. This is one point. So another one is that we do not really have any transparency through the supply chain to identify hotspots. You need to know where you are, to know also where you get to another place, to a better place. And this is one of the issues that we all face. So when we have the climate change issues with carbon emission and environmental and social governance that we have to do, everything is just linked to transparency and traceability, and this is one of the points that we definitely face and address in the project that I am working in at BMW, which is named Catena X.
That's really wonderful. And Sarah, you're working for Aviva, and I know Aviva started by, it was set up by Cambridge University and the UK government as early as 1967. Yes. And you guys pretty much have been championing a lot of things to do with CAD, digital twins over the past 40, 50 years. So what's your intake? How have you been doing to help your clients worldwide to address climate change issues?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think there's really three big challenges when we're talking about climate change, which is extremely complex, of course, in nature. One is global cooperation. We have competing priorities, different interests. We're really trying to get people to align on what's most important can be a big challenge. The second for us, it's a really big part of what we do, is working on the energy transition. So we know that today we're still very heavily reliant on fossil fuels. And in power and industry alone, they've contributed to almost 65% of greenhouse gas emissions over the last year. So really working on transitioning to renewable energy sources and working on the energy trilemma, so decarbonization, reliability, availability of power, is hugely important to us as we're fighting climate change. And the third is changing behavior. So we have deeply ingrained ways of operating as humans, and so really getting that shift in behavior is a big kind of hurdle for us to overcome. But the good news is there's great technology out there that can help us increase collaboration, increase transparency across the supply chain to really help us address some of those tough issues.
That's really cool. Paul, you are blockchain and metaverse lead at EDP, a very big energy company. So how do you use blockchain and metaverse technology to really support energy sectors for sustainability?
Yes, part of the challenge of renewable energy is showing that you're using renewable energy. Companies want to be able to show that they're green, that they're supporting the changes that are needed to combat climate change. And so companies want to be able to show that they're using renewable energy, so they buy renewable energy certificates. And blockchain is one of the ways to make these renewable energy certificates more transparent, more frequent, and a lot more in smaller quantities as well. So it helps the end consumer have confidence that the products that they buy are created with green energy. And if you use blockchain to do it, then you can attach that greenness to your products into your digital twins.
That's very interesting. Roger, you have been working at BP as a global head of design with lots of really forward-thinking ideas to drive sustainability using technology. Can you tell us a bit more?
Sure. Thank you so much. Hopefully you all can hear me in there, Christina.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, apologies, I couldn't make it in person, traveling with all the things we're doing around the globe, but thank you so much for allowing me to come and attend virtually. Again, as Christina said, we have an incredible opportunity, and I think we've already kind of mentioned here the trilemma. And when I actually joined the company back in 2020, in February of 2020, I was excited about the announcement that we made about marching toward net zero. I have the unique privilege to be the first design leader and designer in BP's 100-year history permanently and badged and titled that we know of. And we've established a discipline of design throughout the company, which we call HXD, which is Human Experience Design, that comprises of UX, CX, and EX, which is our employee and enterprise experience. And across the globe, whether it's B2B, B2C, B2G, which is business to governments, helping whole cities and companies become sustainable, or B2E, which is our enterprise software across the globe, or even B2Me, which is all the employee experience, we know that we have to become sustainable in all of our parts of our business. And we're working hard to do that. And so when I came on, they pulled me in from the outside of 25 years plus years in the design world. It was to help BP with the digital transformation that we're going through from the tech world into what we're doing today in energy tech. But one of the exciting things that I got a chance to be a part of was the transition that was discussed earlier, and how we can actually help solve that through design and putting humans and planet at the center. So we are truly working hard to reimagine energy for people and planet. And one of those is through the metaverse, where we can use digital twin technology. We're able to also leverage some of the newer technologies in VR and AR to be able to test some of our EV chargers in certain types of virtual spaces. We can even put it in an AR space and walk around it and draw on it and see what we want to do for better charging experiences across the globe as we're making those investments. We're also spreading design across the company in new ways, especially through our design system, which we call our BP Core, which is focused on what I like to call digital circularity and reusability of our components, and to be able to help us across all of our digital assets. There's over 1 billion plus tons of CO2 expended annually by internet users alone around the globe by all humans and companies. And so how can we make a difference where we can decarbonize our designs and design for decarbonization? And so we're using net zero UX to be able to do that, and those principles behind that, as well as the areas of the metaverse, to not only learn about how we can do that across the globe with our teams, but also keep our people safe as well.
Interesting. So as you know, some of people, they say, since the arrival of generative AI since November last year, they seem to suck up all the oxygen away from metaverse. And some people even start to say the metaverse is dead. So what's the definition of metaverse means to you? I wonder, Roger, can I start with you first?
Yeah, sure, certainly. I mean, I think, I wouldn't necessarily think that I could define it. I think everybody's still in the struggle of figuring out exactly all the definitions. But for us and for me, I think there's a web of interconnectivity in the virtual spaces and virtual connects that we believe that we can bring people together through whether it's through learning, through our sustainable design methods and methodologies, which we've created the first curriculum in the company for sustainability through our design org. And now we're teaching those methods and principles across the globe to help us embed sustainability into the DNA of our company, into the hearts of our company. And we can do that through immersive experiences, through whether it's VR or AR or mixed reality and so forth. And as we're testing different types of technologies, we can learn further. I think there's also opportunities to go deeper in the training, as well as being able to make sure that we keep our people safe and protected through the things that we do through digital twin, as also through finding ways to be more sustainable in the ways that we approach business and the business model as well. So I think that interconnectivity is key through the metaverse. But one of the other things is that it's another way for us to be able to connect and build culture and socialize in new ways in all the expansive distance that we have across the globe. And we do that can do that through our headsets and so forth. And we also do that for onboarding of new joiners and people that are coming into the design space in certain programs. And so it's very exciting. So as we're learning, like everybody else, what's the definition of really the metaverse across the globe, we believe that we can apply what we know today to help us connect, learn, grow, and obviously be safe and become more sustainable.
So you don't think Metaverse is dead yet, and you guys are continue to invest in the area?
Sorry, I missed the question.
Sorry, my question. So you think Metaverse to you is still promising, and you companies continue to invest in this area?
Yeah. So I mean, I think there's, so there's still, I think, questions about does it have the return on investment? What is the value of investment? But we are also being able to be in a space where we can have freedom to be able to test it too, right? So I think there's a balance, right? I think there's a balance of being able to test it, also be, economically conscious, understanding, the climate of what we're doing today, and as it relates to budgets and costs and pressures. But also we need to be able to look at these new technologies so that we can make sure that we are approaching this in a way that's setting us up for the future. Just to give you an example of that, one of my sons, actually both of them, are very much into a lot of the metaverse and gaming, especially Roblox. And I think the way that children are learning today and the way that they're interacting today is the way that they'll work in the future. And the more that they're involved in what they define as what they could be called as the metaverse, and their interaction through virtual and digital type experiences will be very much how they work and how they integrate into our companies and into the world, and come up with the new creativities and technologies that will help us hopefully advance what we're talking about today. And right now, we're designing and creating that for generations to come when we're no longer here. But we do want to do it for the generations to come as they grow up and come into the workforce too. So I think there is a need for that. I think we do want to invest in it. I think we need to also be conscious about, the costs and the value and the return. So there is a little caution there, but we do want to see how we can leverage it and make a difference through it.
Wonderful. So I wonder, what does Metaverse means to you, to BMW?
Beside everything that Giorgio mentioned, which I could just sign under because it's definitely true, everything, I would just say that, let me summarize it very, very abstract. Metaverse is a place where we have a digitalized, decentral platform to work on, and there are three, let's say, values that we consider as very, very important without them, we could not continue as a BMW to work in a metaverse on that platform, which is interconnectivity, interoperability, because we have so many technologies, and it's not possible to just throw them away and just build new ones, but we have to interconnect them within this platform and to work with them. And the third point is data sovereignty. So if we would like to digitalize the supply chain that we have, which is so complex, we need trust, we need the honest data sovereignty to give our data, to get the data from the suppliers, from the customers, and this needs data sovereignty, which is assured and validated. With these three values, it's a platform where we can and will definitely work in the future.
Wonderful. What about you, Sarah?
Thanks, Christina. For us, obviously playing in the industrial space, the core focus of the metaverse is it's a persistent virtual environment that empowers people to collaborate on an asset, on a plant, on an enterprise, across the broader ecosystem. And we really see three critical ingredients. You heard a lot from Roger about that living digital twin with data at the foundation. That's really core to any successful metaverse implementation. The second thing is really putting people at the center, making sure that you're not using technology just for technology's sake. You're allowing people to collaborate in that environment to really solve some big, complex challenges that we're up against, like climate change. And really, those two things are core to ensuring that we are successful with any metaverse implementation. And the third thing for us is looking at user experience. So it's not just the VR headsets, it's making sure that you have a simple, consistent virtual environment that you can collaborate on, regardless of the device or form factor. So that's really core for us. And we have customers like BP doing this today. And really, some of our customers are allowing their teams to collaborate across the globe on the same data set and really drive faster decisions. So turning critical decisions that maybe would have taken days or weeks to take minutes because we can collaborate remotely.
That's wonderful. What about you, Paul?
Actually, I can't add much to what everybody has said already. I can summarize, because interoperability, yes, you need our digital twins need to talk to other people's digital twins. So if we have solar panels, we want our solar panels to be able to talk to our clients' digital twins so that they can plan their workload for the future. So they can produce things when it's very sunny, for example, or when it's windy or whatever. Then you've got decentralization. Anybody can join these digital twin in this metaverse. You've got persistence. Blockchain helps here to make sure that the data stays there continually. You've got self-sovereign control. So each individual user has their experience. They're there. You've got it's got to be synchronous, so everybody joins in at the same time, and contextual. So people think about the metaverse as a 3D environment, but it's also a bit more than that. It's attaching data to objects as well. So even though that glass there, let's say, you want to know, the metaverse might be able to tell you where that glass was made, how much energy was used to make the glass, and it's the context of that object that is interesting, not necessarily just where it is in the 3D space.
Interesting. So we're talking about like different advantages of like using metaverse like technology to really address climate change, sustainability issues. So have you experienced like any challenges? Roger, can I start with you?
Well, I think, just the nature of the climate, the whole climate change landscape is already complex. And the energy trilemma is massive, and I know that Sarah mentioned that earlier as well, around having reliable, sustainable, and affordable energy. And I think the key there is, how do you work in an environment with all those different complexities while we continue to keep the lights on for the world? I had a good friend that said that every human has a relationship with energy, and across the globe. And so there's a part of that where sometimes it is in the subconscious, and we at our company have a conscious duty to continue to provide what is mostly subconscious for most people, what powers their iPhones and their smartwatches to their homes and to everything else that we have. Every company and every single person is consuming energy. They have a reliance on energy, and we have an interconnectivity, and we all work together in many companies like this. So it's extremely complex to be able to make the transition in this space. But I think when you look at how metaverse it can help us, I think the challenges we have to overcome, first and foremost, aren't necessarily you have the technology challenges as it relates to, sometimes there's a cost of, headsets and things as it relates to how many people can use it at scale. There's overcoming different types of setups and, physical reactions to sometimes the virtual spaces that we're in. We have to be very mindful about that. We have something around BP that we've just launched, actually, called inclusive design, where we want to make sure that even our experiences around the metaverse, we make them as inclusive as possible, and accessible. But I think one of the bigger challenges, aside from technology and the ways that we're learning, and even the trying to define what metaverse is, and even the adoption of the metaverse across the world, is the buy-in from stakeholders and leaders that we may want to invest in understanding more that what we can do. And so early adopters have been in the HR space, where onboarding and investments into having connects and remote working has been a thing, and that's led to even further investment around safety and using the metaverse to help us do trainings and scenarios and situations that can help us be safe. That's really our number one thing. And then, of course, and as we can go through that, we can begin to learn and get deeper into sustainability. So the hurdles, though, are not only complex in the world that we have to face, but then we have, even in our own company, the adoption level of buy-in, sponsorship, investment, and along with then the technology itself. How can we scale that? How can we get that to everybody? How well can they interact? And is that going to work for the way that they experience AR or VR, and what does that do also if they have challenges with their equilibrium or whatever in the VR space. So there's all those different things that we've already faced and began to trying to solve and overcome.
Wonderful. So Smara, You working for BMW, and I read the report that actually you guys have been using digital twins in the past 2 years with quite significant results, say 30% efficiency increase. So I wonder, does that also reflected on the environment impact?
Yeah, definitely. We have different use cases, different case studies that we implement different situations. Where we also use the digital twin, the blockchain. We use new technologies in general, also by creating the new platform at Catena X, where we have a consortium of over 28 partners, from Siemens to Mercedes, Volkswagen, even Amazon and Microsoft, and so many more, where we align on the principles how we would like to proceed. And especially at BMW, we have, of course, a very strict line how we could cope with the requirements that we have set ourselves to go to the zero carbon emission goal that we have, especially which is aligned with the Paris Agreement. And at the same point, we face also some let's say, challenges at our work, because we know we are only as good as the smallest supplier that we have in the supply chain. So if we have new technologies, and this is opposite to the last centuries, where each company just tried to work its best for its own. So BMW was at its own, and then Mercedes and whatever company. But the issue is that we finally came to the point where we agree it's not going to work. It's not going to work if we do it alone. We can be the best in our field, internally, in our company. We have the best numbers. We could, and I can say this proudly, we are doing our best at BMW. Yet again, it will not work, especially not in the metaverse, and not if we think about the future and the new technologies and even options that are open to explore. It's only going to work if we do all the best. And in that case, and as we are aware of that point, it's only possible if we align with all the supplier, whether they are very small, like, I don't know, 40, 50 employees, or even bigger companies with more than 100 to 200,000 employees. And I think we are on the best way to do so, by aligning, which is the most important thing.
That's wonderful. So basically, collaboration really helped to address some of the major challenges, especially in very complicated supply chain ecosystem like advanced manufacturing.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. I mean, we have different use cases at the project Catena X. For example, we have one use case which is for traceability, another one for sustainability, which includes, on the one hand, environmental and social governance. On the other hand, it's also the product carbon footprint, shortly PCF. So how much carbon emission is connected to some projects, or let's say one product. And this is the second use case. Another one would be circularity, where we agree on, okay, we have very valuable materials in our components, and they are they might be very critical. So what is the best way to create the transparency and traceability to get these valuable materials reused again in new components and new vehicles? So these are only three of many use cases that we have. And it's something, again, that we have to collaborate, because after doing it alone for centuries, we finally know it's only going to work if all of the partners, whether they are OEM or supplier, first tier, second tier, it's an IT provider, we have to align. And that's why at the project Catena X, we're working with over 150 companies. We are also expanding to not only Europe, and again, this is, I didn't mention even, this is the biggest sustainability project which is funded by the European Commission, the project Catena X, but we are also expanding to America, we are expanding to Asia, for example, China and Japan, because we finally came to the point, it's gonna work when we work together. Otherwise, it will only, this is a good idea, that would be a good option, but it's not aligned and it's not sustainable. And this is exactly what we want to do, to be sustainable in a manner where we can finally honestly say, these are the validated figures, and we achieved this and that, but again, it's validated. So it's honest, it's realistic, and we can proceed with it. We can stand behind it.
It's really encouraging. And Sarah, I know your company has been working with many different sectors to address climate change issues using digital twins. So what kind of challenges have you experienced so far?
Yeah, it's a good question. And speaking just a little bit more broadly about some of the challenges with using even technology to fight big issues like climate change. I mentioned earlier the global cooperation. There's also the digital divide. So in order to do anything, you must have access to data, to connectivity, to information. And without that, it can just further exacerbate inequalities across the globe. We were talking a bit about reducing energy consumption by reducing travel to play within the metaverse. However, it also takes energy to run servers and data centers. So making sure that that infrastructure is actually using sustainable or green energy sources is important. And then when you're looking at digital waste and e-waste, applying circular economy principles to ensure that we are making responsible use of anything that we are creating, from headsets to devices to digital, is also really important to look at in that context.
Wonderful. Paul, any challenges?
Yes, I think the main challenge is engaging with other people in the metaverse to make them sustainable. Because there's one thing making the metaverse sustainable itself. That's first order, making sure that your components are green, that you're using green energy, that sort of thing, and your headsets are made in the correct way from renewable sources and things like that. But there's also, that's first order, that's second order really, because the first order of the metaverse is to encourage other people in the metaverse to do sustainable things. So I bet everybody here at night time, they plug their phone in and go to sleep. Do you care when you wake up? All you care about is that when you wake up, it's 100% charged. You don't necessarily want it to be charged in the first 30 minutes that you're asleep. So what the metaverse could do would be move people's load consumption of electricity during the night time. This is, for mobile phones, everyone's got one, but the same thing goes for electric vehicles. So it's about changing the patterns of the users of the metaverse to make them in a more sustainable way.
Wonderful. We have a few more minutes. I wonder if any audience wants to raise a question to our distinguished panel. Please raise your hands now. Anyone? Don't be shy. Life is so short. We need to make an impact. I see a lady over there. Oh, sorry, a gentleman. I'm short-sighted. I apologize. Yeah.
So sustainability in the metaverse, a lot of questions we get is, this is a new platform, it's consuming new energy, new products. How do we classify that as sustainable? How do we move that extra layer of technology, a new platform, new energy consumption? How do we make that sustainable? How do we justify that? And how do we prove that using this technology isn't adding to a carbon footprint, a burden we already have?
Great question. Any of our panel would like to chip in quickly?
There are various certifications and things. It's all about documenting the data and when things were created and that sort of thing. So, and being able to store that in a transparent way that everybody can access. And blockchain and metaverse is the way to access that sort of data. And blockchain can be the storage layer, but you need to add context to that data.
So one of the So one of the starting blocks for that, would that be carbon accountancy? So looking at what that platform sits on, how the generation of power is for that platform you're using, is that the best place to start? And then how does that carbon accountancy journey work its way to our end users?
Just very quickly, I don't want to monopolize. I think you've got to think cradle to grave, not just instantaneous. So the product that you make, Germany has a rule that when you create a product, you're also responsible for disposing of it. So that gets built into the price that the consumer pays, and when at the end of its life, the consumer doesn't pay anything, but because it's already prepaid for the disposal of the product in an environmentally friendly way. So the focus has to be the digital twin of your product has to be sustainable all the way through its life. And it's that sort of documentation, that sort of mindset that I think is needed.
Well, I also think that's a really great question. Sorry to jump in. I don't know if someone else was going to say something, but I think that we have to really move quickly now, but we have to do it with the companies that are setting up the metaverse in a large-scale manner. So those companies that are investing most, right, where you may see Meta or Microsoft or Google, those platforms, those large ones, really are key players that we should be working with as companies and organizations to be able to come together and collaborate on this. Because I think if you think about the digital state across the globe, the statistics a few years back, at least that I had read, was about, like I mentioned earlier, 1 billion tons of CO2 expended annually by internet usage alone across the globe. If you think about that and then multiply that times the amount of smart vehicles there are now that are also adding to the cloud that we haven't even, and smart devices that we haven't even added, along with the nature of the metaverse, you could see that it's going to, just going to get heavier and heavier impact across the carbon estate of the world. I think if we can work now as a collective and a group to begin to decarbonize the design of that, or decarbonize the base level of that in the myriad of ways that Paul discussed or that you were thinking, but do it as a collective group, that we have a chance. I think there's going to be an initial investment that will go over the carbon impact with all technologies, and then hopefully over time it will scale out and we'll get better as a world. But I think one of the things that we have to think about is that if the metaverse is being used in a certain way for remote connectivity and things like that, there could be an offset of reduction of travel and reduction of using planes or other types of transportation and different types of things to be able to collaborate. And is that offset enough to be able to justify the heavy investment that has to go along with the technology that then has to change over time? So I think we as a world aren't fully there yet, but I think if we all collectively work together, as I think Samar said, that it's going to take all of us and all companies to do this together. I think we have a chance, hopefully, to do that if we start now. And it's not going to be easy.
That's wonderful. So this is a happy ending of our session. We are going to do it now together, collaborate internationally, job done, environment safe. Thank you. Let's put our hands together to our amazing panelists.